No, because the last time they both left the room like this and you and I sat here, he came back in and said he'd been recording for the last 10 minutes, and I freaked out the rest of the time being like, what did I say? Did I say anything bad? What did I...
Yeah, we should talk trash about Owen and Tony.
James and Tony? Because Owen's right here.
That's what I meant.
Talk trash about Owen and Tony if you want to, and I'll just refer to myself in the third person.
I just like saying the name Owen a lot more than James. James is a pretty terrible name.
I mean, yeah.
Jaron, get out of this chair.
Okay.
I gotta read this email. It's about the Fanex. Did you
I'm sitting on this backwards.
Why don't you just scoot the chair forward?
I can't.
If it folds up on you, you sit down and it'll lap.
I'm still getting lost in between the two behemoths.
Did you see the watch I got for $9?
Looks like a lady's
Woman.
watch.
It's a man's watch.
What is it?
It's
Why
a
would
watch.
you do that?
Here, let me see it.
Not a woman's Seiko.
Not
This is
woman's
a
Seiko.
man's watch.
I don't know.
That would
Watch.
fit me, so I don't think it is a man's
Here,
watch.
try it out.
That might be a women's watch.
That's a man's
No,
watch.
that is a woman's watch.
That is a man's watch.
I see that on a very rich.
Megan!
I would expect to see that on a very rich businessman in like the Philippines. He's arrived in 2017 with a Seiko watch from 1991.
Sounds about right.
Dang it.
What'd she say?
I don't.
Did you say it's a woman's watch too?
It's a woman's watch.
I knew it!
If it fits Jaron, it's a woman's watch.
Right now it fits James.
I am dead on the inside.
Okay, we got a couple of emails this week to talk about.
I'll start off.
Yeah, go first, Jaron.
From Chris. Hi, guys. Hey.
Hey.
Make sure you read the emails in order.
Yeah.
Okay.
I've been a listener for a while now and love what you guys are doing.
Hey, thanks, Chris.
Whoop, whoop, whoop.
Chris is one of my friends and former neighbors.
Just
by
be
the way.
more nice to Tony, please.
Thanks, Chris.
Just kidding.
Oh.
Hi,
Oh.
yes. My questions are, if I'm allowed to have to, are this. Can you explain the ins and outs of overclocking? It seems like I hear this term often, and I've always just assumed it was similar to adding a turbo to a crappy car to make it faster or something.
So I have no idea what an overclocking is. Can I place an assumption, if you will?
Sure.
We
Over-
won't. We're not gonna abstain from
This will be,
ridiculing you. though.
this will be
Yeah.
terrible.
I
Yeah.
redact my statement.
We do like when you participate, James.
Yes, James. Please.
So what,
Participation award.
what is
Overclocking is obviously where you overpower your thing.
My second question is...
Wait, should we talk about the first question?
No, let's read the whole thing first.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Because he puts it up.
That's true.
My second question is, do you guys know anything about why Comcast, or possibly other TV providers, don't allow certain TV Anywhere apps on certain devices? For example, that was part one. This email was so big you had to send it in two.
Yep.
For example, I can't watch the Stars app on my Apple TV even using my Comcast login information. So strange. Let me know if you guys have heard anything.
You have to
Thanks.
log in with
Chris
Comcast
H.
on your Apple TV?
Well,
If you log in with your cable provider, you have access to a bunch of apps.
There's-
yeah, they usually have specific network apps, so you can just watch that network shows if you want.
But
So, like, if you know somebody like that's old that has Comcast and they don't do that,
You
it's a
can
good way to get free cable.
use their.
So
yeah.
Mom.
the answer to that
Yeah.
question is a bunch of legal and business deals.
Money.
Yep,
Money.
it has nothing to do with technology. It's just whether Comcast has decided to agree to let you have access to that app on certain devices.
So what I need is an Apple TV and my mom's login information.
Any
and then-
computer.
That'll get
Yep.
you a lot, actually.
Yeah, but any computer or any smart device like that, like a Roku can do it too. And lots
Well,
of
I
stuff.
know. Oh, Roku can do it?
Yeah, Roku can do it.
Yep.
Is that the cheapest? What's the best 4K streaming device right now?
Roku.
Roku
Roku
for
Roku.
How
4K.
much are they going for?
80.
Yeah, about $80.
I know what I'm getting once
They-
I leave
They
today.
started at 100. They've gone down to about
Yeah.
$80.
I'm looking to upgrade. I've got the 3.
There are
and I love
rumors.
it, but
If you like Apple, there's rumors the new Apple TVs here.
I'm-
that was a bad year.
We'll talk about this today on the.
Remember that?
But I hate my Apple TV, so go Roku.
We'll talk about this today on last week's podcast. But
Yes.
I'm starting to jump off the Apple ship, man.
Bravo.
I'm even considering not going with an Apple.
Oh, good.
I
This is-
would not disagree with that.
This is good. You're growing up.
I feel like
You're
I'm in
growing up,
recovery
James.
right now.
Yeah.
Is this a safe space?
It's a safe space, but you're in a very precarious position right now because you could fall back into the Apple world at any
Yeah.
time.
Yeah.
You know, but I'd be there to catch you.
In the Apple world.
To cradle you in my arms.
So speaking of the overclocking, isn't that where they recommend you certain settings to. Okay, so like a graphics card, right?
We
You
should
can only
let
push
Tony
it up to a.
talk.
No, this is my assumption. This is the real assumption. They let you push your graphics card so far, and then after that, it's like pushing an engine. It could break down. Is that what overclocking is? Is if you overclock something, you're giving it too much power and it can break down?
Yeah, I think his first
You're-
assumption,
Yeah.
the one where you say you add more voltage or power to the
You're-
thingy, was pretty close.
You're on the right track.
Yeah.
Modern overclocking sometimes doesn't require adding more power.
Right.
It's just what it really comes down to is changing the frequency on your chip,
Which
So-
requires more power.
and sometimes
Right.
requires more power to be stable. So the don't spray that. That's glass cleaner. Jeez.
We need to have him sit over
I think so.
Here.
That's a great idea.
because we can't have him on either end.
Want to switch?
No, you'd have to switch to Jared next time.
Oh, 'cause
So
you
you'd
have
be in the
chair.
middle, so you couldn't touch anything.
Yeah, it's in the middle.
But you can't have this because I have the gonorrhea seat. I mean,
What?
hemorrhoid seat.
Uh,
That's why it says squishy.
Just learning so much new stuff about Jaren today.
Do you have gonorrhea?
No.
No.
Not last I checked.
Figured I'd ask directly.
So you change the frequency and bump it higher. So standard frequency on a lot of chips is like 3.5
Gigahertz?
gigahertz, excuse me, or 3,500 megahertz, and you can take that and bump it up to 400 or 4,000
4,000.
megahertz or 4 gigahertz.
There are consequences though. If
So-
you bump it up, the heat goes up.
The heat goes up when you do that, and like Owen said, you sometimes have to add more power to it. And when you put more power and more heat through a CPU or a GPU, you shorten the lifespan of that component. That's just science.
yeah.
And it dies.
But the thing about it is most motherboards and CPUs also have fail-safes built in, so that if your overclock is too high and not stable, it'll just shut down.
Yep.
You go back to the BIOS and you bring it down a little bit and see if you're stable.
And that was one of the things I learned about Intel's architecture is that a lot of their chips would sell. Their D series chips were the same as their higher tier. They just set the clock lower.
Yep.
And so a lot of the chips, or they were the defects, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
so-
like the
So many times, this is how AMD does their new Ryzen 7 series. Is you have the 1700, 1700X, and 1800X. The 1700X starts at 3.2 gigahertz and clocks up to 3.6 gigahertz. The 1700X, did I say 1700X first?
Yes.
1700 starts at 3.2 and goes to 3.6. The 1700X starts at 3.4 and goes to 3.8. And the 1800X starts at 3.6 and goes to 4.0 and maybe a little higher gigahertz. They are functionally the exact same chip.
on the die.
On the die, the
Die.
chip itself is the exact same hardware. They just clock
What does on the die mean?
So they make a lot of processors on the same
on the same die.
die, and so they just cut them up.
Kind of like
Die
like
cast?
a cookie
Mold,
cutter.
like a mold.
Oh,
or a mold,
thank you.
yeah.
What's
It's,
it,
uh,
but what is a die though? Is that the mold?
Yeah.
Die.
Okay.
Yeah.
Why do they call it a die? It's
You-
like a die cast?
Yeah,
Exactly.
exactly like that.
Hmm.
So anyway, overclocking is basically a free way as long as your cooling is good enough to up the megahertz or gigahertz on your stuff and get free extra performance.
Does it
Yeah.
matter if it's liquid cooled or air cooled?
If it's liquid cooled, it's going to keep that chip cooler, so you'll be able to push it harder because it removes heat faster.
That's a good question, James.
Yeah, that was a good question.
Oh,
that
sorry.
was one
What
of
was
the
that?
worst high fives
I was
I've
going
ever
for a
seen.
no look high
my
five.
fingernail.
So,
Woo.
and yeah, air cooled is efficient if you're not going to overclock, and you can get a slight overclock on it usually just fine. But
Do
it's
you
not
overclock,
not as good.
Tony?
I do. My current computer has a i7 3770K. Came stock at I want to say 3.5 gigahertz, and I have it run continuously at 4.2 gigahertz with the overclock.
No problems.
No problems.
Stable.
Stable 100%.
That's pretty good performance,
Yeah.
actually. 4.2.
And the computer I'm building, which you'll see a video for soon because I'm going to build next week, I'm going with the Ryzen 1700X CPU, and it comes at, like I said before, 3.6 gigahertz with a boost to, or 3.4 gigahertz with a boost to 3.8. But I'm just going to start it at a regular overclock of 4 gigahertz.
and see what happens.
And
So 3.8 is what they recommend, and you're gonna go.
so their 3.4 to 3.8 is automatic overclocking.
Oh,
that
I
it does
see.
for you. It's like
Oh, I
turbo
see.
turbo boost on
Yeah.
an Intel chip.
Okay.
It's like the NOS.
Sure. Not
You're
really.
killing it.
It's not really.
Yep, he's
I'm
killing
so good.
And so I'm just going to skip over that and just set it hard at 4 gigahertz because everything I've read says a 1700X will overclock to 4 gigahertz, no problem. Especially if it's liquid cooled like I'm going to do.
You
So-
worried about losing the 200 megahertz from the backset from what you have now? You think it'll perform at the same?
It should perform better because my current chip is 4 years old, and so the architecture is much better.
Are you custom piping it and
No,
everything?
I'm doing all-in-one coolers that are
Yeah.
just built to bolt on. I'm not
You're not a
fancy
plumber?
enough now to do the custom liquid cooling.
Are you ready to empty the coolant out every 6 months?
No, I won't have to because of the route I'm going. That's the whole point.
Hey, actually, with computer parts on our minds here, we should read the next email.
Let's do it.
That
Because
was expert.
because it talks about that. So it says, this is from Austin Beauregard.
Hey, he's a Patreon
he's
backer.
a Patreon backer. Hey,
Thanks, Austin.
Thanks.
Met Tony here at FanX. First of all, thank
Hold
you.
on, did he not meet me at FanX?
He probably
He talks
He
about
talks about it.
Yeah. Hold on.
Talks about.
First
well,
of all,
you'll see.
thank you for creating an entertaining, I fixed that for you, podcast that helps me easily
Why do you
learn
have to
and
state that?
Because I almost said it wrong, and I would have looked stupid. Anyway, so that helps me easily learn and stay informed about everything tech. I had the wonderful opportunity of meeting Tony at the last FanX and told him I was interested in building my own desktop, to which he replied that I should send you all an email. I had the chance to meet James there as well, but he seemed preoccupied with Geek Show stuff. One day,
Make
Also-
time for the fans. James.
All I'm saying is, usually when I'm doing FanX, if I'm not sitting and doing nothing, I'm either running around like a chicken with my head cut off.
Yeah.
It's like one of two gears. If I'm ever
Yeah.
busy, give me like 2 minutes, and then I promise I'll be clear for like the next 2 hours.
he has a small little thing on there for hope. He just says, after that sentence about missing out on meeting you, he goes, one day. Meaning, he plans to. Yeah. So,
Dude,
anyway,
tweet at me and we'll do lunch together sometime.
Also, it would be pretty sweet to meet Jaren and Owen. Hey, that's us.
Yeah.
After talking with some friends and doing a little bit of self-research, I have put together this parts list. And it's a parts picker, pcpartpicker.com. So if you guys
Love
want to look at that.
PCPartPicker.com. and
Tony's
It's
favorite.
one of my favorite websites.
So then he goes on to say, the main purpose of this computer is obviously for gaming, obviously. But I am also studying computer science at Weber State, and hopefully this can be a good learning opportunity as well. I guess my intent in emailing you guys is to, 1, see if you have any suggestions on different parts I should use, or to see if you think that the parts are good enough. B, that
Nothing's ever good
that
enough.
breaks me when you go from
One to
numbers.
B?
1 to B.
I do that all
It
the time.
messes with my head.
I go
Ti-
A and then 2 is what I
Oh my
usually
gosh. To get any tips, suggestions you might have about the building process, and 3, actually I'm going to fix that for you, and C, finally to say hello to you all and thank you for your great work. May the force be with you all. Austin Beauregard.
Thank you.
P.S. That one time Tony teased James a couple of episodes ago about being able to say my last name correctly, but not David. I'm assuming it's spelled Oshuna.
do. It's Osuna, and for some reason James says Oshuna every time.
Yeah, Oshuna's.
No, I say
Definitely-
Oshuna.
He said, hey,
Osuna. There's
look
no
at
S H.
Oh, Shuna.
James was home.
Osuna.
Osuna.
He was homeschooled and didn't get the reading section taught to him.
Me and my mom are close.
He says, that definitely made my day. And even got a chuckle from my wife. There you go.
That's how you
Good
know
job.
we're doing good if we get wife chuckles.
If we can get women to laugh,
Yep.
that's the best.
Yeah. Anyway, so yeah, at parts list. Speaking of which, Tony's building a new PC as we speak. He's not as.
I'm
we
waiting
speak,
for
but-
one more part to come in the mail and
So,
then get ready.
The
To go-
computer.
To go through his parts list really quick, it's a Core i5 7500,
Yep.
liquid cooler for the CPU, 1080 Ti, nice, 512 gig
I like
SSD.
the wrapper.
16 gigs RAM. 650 watt hard drive. Was that a Wi-Fi adapter that goes in the PCI Express slots?
You mean power supply? Yeah, that's what you mean.
What did I say?
Hard drive.
Oh, 650 watt power supply.
Well, I've never heard that spec for hard drives before.
Best.
We can include this list down in the description below.
So
Yeah.
Tony, how can you improve this?
And a pretty good motherboard. Okay,
What do you
so
think about the Core i5
here's
series
the problem.
and the Core i3 series?
the one thing I would do is it confused me when I saw this list because you go really high end on like 85% of your parts here, but then you kind of skimped on the CPU,
Which that's a pretty important part.
Well, that's only the brain. Now the i5-7500 isn't bad. It's a good CPU, but for another $30 you can get the 7600K, which is unlocked, so you can overclock, bringing it back around.
Whoa.
And especially with the CPU cooler you put on here, the Corsair H100i V2, that's a very efficient CPU cooler, so you could overclock that
Easy.
that CPU very, very well. So my recommendation, everything on here looks good. I mean, you even went with an NVMe solid state drive, and those are very nice.
How big's a solid state drive?
This is 500 gig.
It's not about the size on solid state. It's about the speed.
500.
It's about both now.
Well, yeah.
Schooled, son.
Yeah.
So anyway, the other one thing I would say maybe look at changing is you have a PCI Express Wi-Fi adapter on here, and that's cool. But honestly, I think it's unnecessary because you end up using up PCI Express lanes for a Wi-Fi adapter when you can get a wireless AC USB Wi-Fi adapter and just stick it in a USB port.
Yep.
And it works just as good. Honestly, I've been running on a USB Wi-Fi adapter for years now, and I've never had a problem. So yeah, I would recommend. I would recommend going with the 7600K CPU from Intel, or even if you want to spend a little more money, go with the i7, because that one is 7700K. You can get, I think, now for about $280. You can find it on sale,
Yeah.
usually $285, somewhere around there.
Or check out Ryzen.
Or even, yeah, if you want to check out the AMD stuff, the
Yeah.
Ryzen stuff is real good. I'm doing my first AMD build because of it. So
Yeah, but you'd have to like redo his whole parts list for that.
just the motherboard and the CPU.
And the RAM doesn't have to take different RAM.
RAM would probably be fine.
Well, there you have it.
So, but if you want to stick with Intel, yeah, I would definitely get that.
Crazy.
7600K, or spend even a little more and do the 7700K.
How fickle your loyalty is, Tony. Jumping over to Ryzen
I
and
know.
AMD
I know.
after.
I want to
just-
support the underdog because I want Intel to have competition.
I feel almost like an Apple fanboy, but for Intel, because I like Intel so much.
I don't like Intel.
I like them illogically, I guess. I like Intel for no reason other than I like them. And so
I've always liked AMD. I had an AMD CPU back in the 90s when I was into PC gaming. I have fond memories for that thing. I think it was a K6 something.
AMD made excellent CPUs up until about 2004, 2003, 2004, maybe 2005.
2003.
I just did.
2003?
it's way more syllables.
That's right.
Alright, let's cut this.
So anyway,
Let's cut it off.
Yeah.
Who wants to do the outro?
Hey,
We don't do that for the email.
what? No, I'm not. I'm just gonna say, hey, this is a Gadget Spot.
Oh.
If you got email questions, send us an email.
drop us a
Or-
line.
TheGadgetSpotcast@gmail.com.
Yeah, follow us on Twitter and all that stuff.
Or
yeah.
follow us on Twitter at Real Gadget Spot.
At Real Gadget Spot.
Or Facebook. Gadget Spot.
Find us somewhere.
We're
tackle
everywhere.
me on the street.
We're everywhere.
Actually, tackle James on the street,
And tell your friends.
and then he'll tell me about it, or us about it.
And tell your friends.
Yeah.
Anything to say, James? Did you return that women's watch yet?
No, I still got it.